I'm Michael Bryant here, and we are continuing our coverage of many things. Karen Reed case, jury still deliberating. The judge had to give them a go back at it pep talk, and now after almost 20 hours, still no word from them on an actual verdict. They're in their lunch break now, but I believe they're probably still chatting about this case. So what we're doing now is bringing you some previous testimony from another case we're covering in the RICO trial out of Fulton County. Some key state witnesses in the Jeffery, Young, Thug, Williams, and Company matter. Williams looking at accusations that he is the founding member of a gang referred to as Young Slime Life. But Thug's defense says Young Slime Life, YSL for short, it's just the rapper's record label. So earlier today in an Atlanta courtroom, not the same Atlanta courtroom as you can tell from seeing the other one so often, there were motion hearings with severed YSL defendants being escorted in and out with their various attorneys. And these co-defendants, again, severed from the current YSL trial, include Demikian Garlington, Khalif Adams, Tenquarius Mender, a.k.a. Nard, a.k.a. Stunna, and there were others. Let's take a look at whether they rejected some pending plea offers or not. And if they don't accept those plea offers, guess what? They go to trial.
Judge Thomas Mundelli for Mr. Garlington. On this case, Your Honor, the state conveyed an offer in writing, which I've conveyed to my client. I've spoken with the state as well. At this point in time, we are declining their offer. In case we further notice as a result, but per discussions with the state, we would like to be able to keep negotiations open.
And today is the last opportunity to make a negotiated plea. Anything after the delay is going to be non-negotiated, regardless of whether the state or the defendant has negotiated something. We put this on the calendar a good while back. This case has been going on since God created Adam. And so if you haven't worked out something yet, too tough. We just moving it to the trial calendar. And that's all I've got to say. So you had plenty of time to talk about what could be done, and that's it. So further notice to the trial calendar, state's offer is withdrawn. Anything after this is non-negotiated.
That's fine, Judge. Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone that's paid any attention to what's been going on in the state of Georgia and Fulton County understands that there's a lack of attorneys available to handle these types of cases. It takes forever for the, whatever the name of that organization is, that I never can get these initial kinds of things straight, but when a request is made for an attorney to be appointed to represent a defendant, it takes forever for them to get somebody and put them in place, which means that it does take time for the attorney to come up to speed and to actually be able to communicate with their clients in order to properly prepare to handle a particular cases. This case has been going on so long that certain defendants may have had one attorney, then somebody left the PD's office or somebody left the Georgia, whatever they call them, Council of Defense Lawyers or whatever it is, and then somebody else has to be appointed and then come up to speed and all of those kinds of things. Well, that's what we're dealing with. So what we do is the best we can do. So if somebody hadn't had a chance to adequately prepare or they aren't properly representing their client, then we do what we need to do to make sure that that doesn't affect the ultimate result of the case. So he's not here today because he has a legitimate emergency. Now, whether or not he's talked with you, met with you, or prepared with you previously, I can't deal with that, and I have no reason to doubt what you're saying. But as far as what we can do today, his father apparently is in the hospital, and unless we've been told something that's not true, and I don't have any reason to believe it's not true. His father's in the hospital in a very serious situation, and he's there with his attorney there. We'll look further into the idea of whether or not he's adequately been prepared or been with you to do what he needs to do to represent you in this particular case. So that's the best I can tell you right now. Okay, now we're on Mr. Cobb.
Morning again, Your Honor. As mentioned, I'm Attorney Kareem Cashlin. I was recently appointed on the case not even a month ago. I've yet to receive discovery. Additionally, I have yet to receive a plea offer for my client to even convey to him. And critically, Your Honor, unfortunately, I have been unable to get in contact with my client. I don't believe he is necessarily absconded from the court's jurisdiction. I believe it's more of a clerical error in that the conflict office has not given me the proper contact information. So I'll have to go to the clerk and ascertain that info for him.
Your Honor, Mr. Cobb has yet to be arrested on the warrant in this case, Your Honor. He has not been arrested, so that's probably why there is no address for him, because he hasn't been arrested.
Right. Yes, he's been, my understanding since we started, he hadn't been in custody, and his whereabouts are unknown at this particular point in time.
Yes, Your Honor, he's the last defendant that has not been arrested.
And I have seen in his history on Odyssey that he might have been returned to Washington State Prison. I checked their database, and he's not an inmate located there.
I don't believe we aren't showing that Mr. Cobb is in custody anywhere else, are we?
Correct. No.
No, Your Honor, not at this time, no.
All right, well, unless and until he's before the court, then there's nothing we can do about Mr. Cobb's case. I would just say stay ready. If he's brought into custody or whatever, then you start from there.
Will do, Your Honor. May I be excused?
Yes, sir. Have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
Now, ultimately, Javarius Bradford, Tenquarius Menda, and Demetrius Garlington, I think I got most of those right, they denied their plea deals, turned down, so they asked to be put on the trial calendar. Damon Blaylock, he had a plea offer. He turned it down. Then he asked the court to reconsider that. That was denied. And there were some other YSL members who decided, well, they got attorney issues. It's unbelievable what's going on there. Justin Cobb's whereabouts still unknown. He hasn't even been arrested yet. So let's dive into this. Still with me this hour is trial attorney Katherine Lizardo. Joining us as well on the firm is trial attorney Lateef Gray. Thank you, sir, for joining. And first time with me on the network, so I apologize. Let me start with you, Lateef. What the hell's going on in Fulton County? I mean, you know, we see the YSL case dragging itself on, and this is a sidecar to that main case. There were so many defendants that were severed out, and now they're in their own little lifeboats. You can't get attorneys. They can't get them through the system, and some of them they can't even find. What's happening there?
It's a mess. It's a mess. They've charged a bunch of people with a bunch of different crimes, and it's going to be a long time before these cases are resolved. The judge was getting upset because I think he may be a settlement judge and he wants the cases to settle. And when they don't settle, it's looking like he's not doing his job. So it's just one big mess, a bunch of clients being charged with a bunch of different stuff. And it's going to be a long time before these cases are resolved.
Yeah, the judge mentioned that the cases have been, began with Adam and Eve. They may be going through the second coming. So, Katherine, there's a money issue in the county for sure. And we know that that's why they don't have the bodies. And that's what's caused part of the backlog. We know, obviously, COVID was a jump start to that. But, this is all under Fonnie Willis's watch. And, I don't see them stepping in to fix anything.
Yeah, there needs to be more accountability or more procedure in place to get this case, even the severed cases, going. I'm sure that judge is looking into the main RICO case going on and how long it has taken. I've lost count of the number of trial days. It's been more than 5 months now and still going. And even though these other defendants are severed from that, their cases as well is similarly complicated. They're RICO cases. And so the judge is not looking forward to that. That's why he was encouraging likely the defendants to settle or to have this drop dead deadline today regarding their plea agreement. And if you don't do it, then we're going to trial, as we heard him say.
Yeah, it's like eventually, because I don't see any right to speedy trial being carried out here. These guys are going to be waiving that right. Let's talk about Judge Glanville, because we can't talk about YSL without getting into Judge Glanville. Remember, there was this whole issue with his holding a witness in contempt, Mr. Copeland, Lil Woody, then trying to hold Attorney Steele in contempt. He's been back and forth with these issues, and all centers around this meeting that took place in the judge's chambers, which involved a witness and the prosecution, but not the defense attorney. So, Lateef, tell me your reaction just to that scenario.
As a defense attorney, I'm a bit upset about it. I mean, you're having this ex parte communication where apparently evidence was being taken and things were being put on the record, and the defense wasn't notified about it. I didn't blame Mr. Steele for getting upset about it. And quite frankly, every other defense attorney on the case should have been upset about it. And I think the judge was inappropriate for doing that. And when he held Mr. Steele in contempt, the Georgia Supreme Court said no immediately. So I'm with the defense attorneys on this. I would be upset about it, and I would be making a big stink about it as well.
Every time I see some of that happening, I just keep thinking about that And Justice for All, Al Pacino. I'm out of order. You're out of order. This whole courtroom's out of order. Scene. So, Katherine, is there a fix for this? Do we get rid of Judge Glanville? Do we replace him? What's the remedy?
Well, they've asked him to recuse himself, and he said no. And I agree with my colleague, excuse me, with what he said, that, even if you're not a defense attorney, I think as long as you're an attorney and you hear ex parte communication where another party is not just included in that, especially in such a high profile trial like this, that is such a cause for concern. You always just want to get this case going. Any reason that it might be thrown out, or there's an issue with the judge that might have to replace the judge, and we don't know how that would affect the trial in itself that has been going on for so long for this jury. And I feel so bad for this jury that they have to sit through this and go through these issues.
Yeah, well, one more issue pending. They're going to have a hearing now to determine whether the defense attorneys learning about that meeting that I mentioned and being held in contempt for learning about it truly is the proper basis for a contempt finding. It's almost like the judge said, hey, don't rat me out. Don't tell anybody what you learned. And now the court's trying to punish those people for outing the judge about that particular meeting. It's quite the case. We, of course, will continue to follow it. Thanks, guys, for the input on that. We're going to take a break here. Karen Reed, they continue to deliberate her fate. We will come back with more on Law and Crime right after this.